I didn't hear the joke. I mean, you're telling it to me now, so I'm hearing it. But I mean, I obviously know that Trump was pissed about it.
Yeah, he's threatening to sue.
Yeah. That is the biggest man baby on the planet, dude. He is the fucking biggest man child. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, they released more of the Epstein files.
Whoo.
There's a lot there. Allegedly, Jay-Z and Pusha T got mentioned in there somewhere.
Listen, I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing like everybody else and playing the fucking high school girl gossip game. I mean, I need more. Because I'm looking online and already we see like almost like bullshit tabloid newspapers at the grocery store. I saw one on Instagram. Jay-Z and Beyonce divorced because of the Epstein shit. Jay-Z flees the country and is going to another country. Stop it.
The moment those Epstein documents started circulating again, something predictable happened. Not in courtrooms, not in newsrooms, on timelines. Within hours, screenshots were flying, names were trending, threads were being stitched together in real time. And before any official clarification, before context, before legal analysis, the verdict had already been delivered online. Guilty. That's the part nobody talks about. The speed? One name appears in thousands of pages. Someone zooms in, crops it, posts it with a dramatic caption. Another creator overlays music. Someone else connects it to an old lyric, an old photo, an old rumor. Suddenly, it isn't just a mention in a document. It's a full-blown narrative. The algorithm grabs it. There's no slowing it down. This isn't about proving anyone innocent or guilty. It's about understanding how quickly speculation becomes certainty on the internet. Because when celebrity, secrecy, and a scandal like Epstein collide, logic moves slowly, but emotion moves fast. So the real question isn't just who was named, it's this. Why does the internet decide guilt before the evidence even finishes loading? And once that switch flips, can it ever be turned off? Before the timelines exploded, before the theories started stacking up, there was one simple trigger: document dumps. When courts began unsealing portions of the Jeffrey Epstein-related files, headlines ran with massive numbers, millions of pages, thousands of exhibits, names scattered throughout depositions, flight logs, contact lists, and testimonies. On paper, it sounded like the biggest exposure of elite connections in modern history. But here's where confusion started. Being named in documents does not automatically mean being accused of a crime. It can mean a lot of things. Someone could appear in a contact book. Someone could have attended the same event. Someone could be referenced by a third party in testimony. In legal language, context is everything. Online, context is optional. The average social media user isn't reading 200-page court filings. They're seeing cropped screenshots, a highlighted name, a bold caption that says, "Why isn't anyone talking about this?" That's how misunderstanding begins. The Epstein case itself involved a massive network of people from different industries. Politics, finance, entertainment. Some were investigated, some were questioned, some were simply mentioned in passing. The legal process moves carefully and slowly. The internet doesn't. So when certain celebrity names started circulating again, many people assumed that inclusion equaled implication. But that's not how legal documents work. And here's the key difference most timelines ignore. A name in a document is not the same as a charge. A reference is not the same as evidence. Speculation is not the same as proof. But once a name trends, nuance disappears. And that's exactly where the fire started. The second a name trends, the algorithm goes into overdrive. It doesn't ask whether something is verified. It asks one question: is it engaging? A single screenshot can travel faster than a full legal analysis. Someone highlights a name in a document. Another creator overlays dramatic music. A third stitches it with an old interview clip. Within minutes, separate pieces of unrelated content start looking like a connected story. This is how hints become headlines. TikTok detectives zoom in on flight logs. Twitter threads stack up old photos next to new rumors. YouTube thumbnails add red circles and arrows. Context disappears. Emotion takes over. And the algorithm rewards the strongest emotion: shock, anger. But once viewers feel like they've connected the dots, they become invested. They share, they comment, they argue. Every interaction pushes the narrative further. The platform doesn't care if the dots actually connect. It cares that people are watching. There's also something powerful about feeling like you're uncovering hidden truth. When someone says, they don't want you to see this, it activates curiosity. It feels rebellious, it feels urgent, it feels important, and that feeling spreads faster than facts ever could. So by the time traditional media clarifies what a document actually says, the online narrative has already solidified. Screenshots have been reposted thousands of times. Reaction videos have hit millions of views. And for many people, the verdict is already locked in. But this is where things get even more complicated, because some names don't just trend, they explode. Not every name in those documents caused chaos. Some were mentioned and barely trended. Others detonated the internet within minutes. That difference isn't random, it's psychological. When a public figure already carries layers of mystery, wealth, power, and influence, speculation sticks harder. Billionaires, industry moguls, people who move quietly behind the scenes. The more powerful someone appears, the more suspicious the internet becomes. There's also something else at play: pattern memory. Old interviews resurface. Old lyrics get reinterpreted. Age gap conversations from years ago get pulled back into the spotlight. Photos from the early 2000s get recirculated with new captions. Suddenly, everything looks like it fits a larger narrative, even if those pieces were never connected before. This is confirmation bias in real time. If someone already distrusts elites, then seeing a famous name near an Epstein document feels like validation. It confirms what they already suspected. And once confirmation bias locks in, opposing information feels like denial instead of nuance. Another factor? Fame scale. The bigger the celebrity, the louder the reaction. A global icon isn't just a person, they represent culture, success, and influence. So when their name appears anywhere near a scandal this massive, people don't process it calmly. They process it emotionally. Add to that decades of conspiracy culture around billionaires and power networks, and the spark becomes gasoline. And once that fire catches, it doesn't stay contained to one person, because when one half of a power couple trends, the other half gets pulled in automatically. When one powerful name trends, the internet rarely stops there, especially when that person is part of a globally recognized power couple. Here's how the psychology works. Online culture doesn't separate individuals cleanly when they're publicly tied together. If one partner is questioned, the other becomes part of the narrative by default. It's not about evidence, it's about association. If they built an empire together, they must know everything about each other. That assumption spreads instantly. So, when speculation starts around one person, timelines immediately pivot to the spouse. Old interviews get replayed. Lyrics are dissected. Body language clips resurface. Public appearances are reanalyzed with new suspicion. Silence becomes strategic. Distance becomes symbolic. And here's where perception becomes dangerous. If a couple appears united, people say they're covering for each other. If they appear distant, people say they're preparing for separation. If they say nothing, it's suspicious. If they respond, it's damage control. There is no neutral ground once the internet decides a narrative is forming. Follower drops get interpreted as public rejection. Brand accounts unfollowing get framed as quiet distancing. Even unrelated business moves suddenly look like escape plans. It becomes a story that feeds itself. And the larger the empire, the more dramatic the fall feels to people watching. The internet loves a rise, but it loves a collapse even more. Which leads to the next question. When brands and platforms start making visible moves, are they reacting to evidence or reacting to public pressure? When speculation explodes online, brands don't wait for verdicts. They react to risk. That's the part most people miss. Major corporations, streaming platforms, sports leagues, luxury brands operate on optics. If controversy trends long enough, legal guilt becomes secondary. What matters is brand safety. So when fans notice unfollows, quiet removals, archived partnerships, or sudden silence from corporate accounts, the internet instantly interprets it as confirmation. But that's not always what it is. In crisis management, distancing doesn't equal proof. It equals protection. Companies constantly monitor public sentiment. If engagement turns negative or headlines feel volatile, they create space. Not because someone has been proven guilty, but because they don't want to be caught in the blast radius if something escalates. It's strategic insulation. The problem is, online audiences rarely see it that way. They see distancing as inside knowledge. They assume corporations know more than the public does. And that assumption fuels even more speculation. Now combine that with a celebrity couple whose image has been carefully crafted for decades. Power, unity, control. The second cracks appear, people assume the empire is collapsing. Follower counts drop. The public is waking up. Separate appearances, they're preparing for divorce. Silence, they're lawyering up. Narratives build fast because they feel cinematic. But here's the reality. Brand strategy and criminal proof are two completely different things. And when the internet blurs that line, perception becomes louder than facts. Which brings us to the real engine behind all of this. Why are conspiracy narratives so powerful in the first place? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Conspiracies don't spread because people are stupid. They spread because they're emotionally satisfying. When the internet sees powerful celebrities linked, even loosely, into something as disturbing as the Epstein case, it triggers a deeper reaction. People already believe the ultra-wealthy operate by different rules. They already suspect elite circles protect their own. So when names trend together, it feels like confirmation of what they knew all along. And that feeling is powerful. Add algorithms into the mix. Platforms reward engagement. Outrage, shock, fear. Those drive clicks. A calm headline saying, "No evidence confirmed," doesn't travel nearly as far as "the empire is about to collapse." So dramatic takes rise to the top. Then comes pattern stitching. Old photos resurface, song lyrics get reinterpreted, business relationships become secret alliances, separate trips become escape. The human brain loves connecting dots, even when the dots were never meant to connect. Once a theory gains traction, confirmation bias kicks in. Every neutral action becomes suspicious. Silence becomes guilt. PR statements become proof of a cover-up. Even unrelated celebrity behavior gets folded into the narrative. And here's the key. Once millions of people emotionally invest in a theory, walking it back feels like losing. So they double down. That's how speculation hardens into belief. But there's a critical distinction we have to protect, especially when discussing something as serious as Epstein's crimes. Being mentioned in documents, attending events, or existing in overlapping social circles is not the same thing as proven participation in criminal activity. And that line matters, because once we erase it, anyone can become guilty by association, and that's a dangerous game to play. Now let's slow this down and separate two things: documents and internet storytelling. What we know for certain is this: Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of serious crimes involving exploitation and trafficking. After his arrest in 2019, court documents, flight logs, and legal filings became public. Over time, more records were unsealed. Those documents contain names. Lots of names. But here's the critical part. A name appearing in a document does not automatically mean wrongdoing. Some names show up because they were witnesses, some were acquaintances, some attended large events, some were mentioned in third-party testimony. Context matters. When it comes to celebrities like Jay-Z or Beyonce, there has been massive online speculation. Social media has circulated screenshots, alleged lists, and anonymous claims. But as of now, there has been no verified court ruling or criminal charge linking either of them to Epstein's crimes. That distinction is important. The internet often takes 3 steps at once. A name appears in the document is shared without context. Speculation fills the gaps. And by the time it reaches TikTok or Twitter threads, it's framed as confirmed truth. Add in old photos, lyrics, business partnerships, and suddenly a full narrative is built, even if there's no direct evidence supporting it. That doesn't mean powerful people should never be questioned. Accountability is necessary, but accusations require proof. Because if we start treating speculation as fact, we blur the line between investigation and defamation. And once that line disappears, anyone can be next. The moment a high-profile name gets linked to something dark, the internet does what it does best. It builds a story. Fast. Clips get stitched together. Old interviews resurface, lyrics get reinterpreted, facial expressions become proof, timing becomes suspicious, silence becomes guilt. And once a narrative starts trending, algorithms take over. On platforms like TikTok, X, and YouTube, content that triggers emotions spreads faster. Anger spreads, shock spreads, fear spreads. A calm explanation rarely goes viral, but a dramatic theory, that explodes. Conspiracy breakdowns usually follow a pattern. First, there's a real event. In this case, the Epstein files being unsealed. Second, a famous name is mentioned somewhere in a document. Third, people connect that name to unrelated old footage, rumors, or symbolism. Fourth, creators start asking leading questions instead of making claims. What if? Why would? Is it possible? And suddenly, viewers feel like they're discovering hidden truth. It feels investigative, it feels rebellious, it feels like we're outsmarting the system. But here's the once an idea is planted, confirmation bias kicks in. People only look for evidence that supports the theory. Anything that contradicts it gets dismissed as cover-up, and that's how a rumor turns into a movement. Now ask yourself, are we uncovering corruption, or are we watching a viral narrative form in real time? Because the difference between the two is everything. Now, let's talk about what actually happens when the internet turns a theory into a verdict. The moment a celebrity's name trends next to something like Epstein files, the damage starts instantly. It doesn't matter whether there's proof, context, or even clarification. Screenshots spread faster than facts. Headlines get rewritten by users. And within hours, public opinion hardens. Unfollows happen, brands go quiet. Comment sections explode, silence becomes suspicious, a deleted post becomes evidence, every move gets analyzed. And here's the part people rarely discuss. Once that narrative forms, it almost never fully disappears, even if no charges are filed, even if investigations find nothing criminal, even if the mention was indirect or misinterpreted. The associations. That's the power of suggestion. We've seen this pattern before. A high-profile scandal breaks. Names get mentioned in documents, guest lists, or flight logs. Some of those names turn out to be connected in ordinary ways. Some face scrutiny, others are cleared. But by then, the internet has already decided who is guilty and who isn't. And once the public emotionally commits to a story, changing that belief becomes almost impossible. So here's the bigger question. Are we watching accountability unfold, or are we watching the speed of social media outpace the speed of truth? Because in the digital age, reputation can collapse in 24 hours, and rebuilding it can take a lifetime. That's the real fallout. Whenever a major scandal erupts, especially one tied to elite networks, the public doesn't just look at the documents. They start analyzing behavior. Who went silent? Who deleted posts? Who unfollowed who? Who traveled suddenly? And that's exactly what we're seeing now. The internet has shifted from asking, "Is there proof?" to asking, "Why are they acting?" A wiped Instagram page becomes evidence. A postponed appearance becomes hiding. A quiet week turns into damage control. Every move is dissected like it's part of a coded message. But here's the reality most people ignore. High-profile figures often go quiet during legal storms because lawyers tell them to. Brands distance themselves because they fear association. Publicists limit exposure because speculation is unpredictable. That doesn't automatically mean guilt. It means risk management. Still, perception moves faster than explanation. When powerful names appear in controversial documents, even in minor or unclear contexts, the assumption becomes, where there's smoke, there's fire. And online audiences start connecting dots that may or may not exist. The danger? Once the internet locks into a narrative, nuance disappears. Now it's no longer about verified facts. It's about momentum. And right now, momentum is driving the story more than confirmed evidence ever could. At this point, it's critical to separate two very different things: being mentioned and being implicated. Large investigations, especially ones as massive as the Epstein case, produce mountains of documents. Names appear for different reasons: social events, business meetings, travel logs, secondhand testimony, or even just context. A name showing up in paperwork does not automatically equal criminal wrongdoing, but online, that distinction disappears. Once someone sees a headline like "Celebrity name appears in files," the brain fills in the blanks. Screenshots circulate without context. Anonymous claims get reposted as confirmed fact. Old photos resurface and get reinterpreted through a darker lens. And here's the uncomfortable truth: conspiracy culture thrives on ambiguity. When documents are partially sealed, when timelines are complicated, when legal language is dense, people step in to simplify the story, often by making it more dramatic. That doesn't mean powerful people are innocent by default. History shows elites can and do abuse systems. Accountability matters. Victims matter. investigations matter, but accusation is not conviction. And in cases, this high-profile, real legal findings, not viral threads, are what determine truth. So the real tension isn't just about celebrities, it's about whether we're watching justice unfold or watching speculation run ahead of evidence. Eventually, every viral storm reaches the same point. The trending hashtags slow down, the think pieces stop, the outrage finds a new target. But what remains? If investigations produce hard evidence, then accountability follows. Charges, courtrooms, real consequences. That's how the system is supposed to work. If they don't, then we're left with something far more complicated. Reputations permanently altered by suspicion. And that's the part people don't sit with. In today's climate, public figures are judged in real time by millions of strangers who feel like they've pieced together the full story from fragments. Sometimes those fragments reveal real corruption. Sometimes they don't. The danger is treating both outcomes the same. There's a reason legal processes move slower than social media. Evidence has to be verified, claims have to be tested, context has to be understood. So the real question isn't just whether names appear in documents, it's this: are we demanding truth, or are we demanding a villain? Because once the internet decides you're guilty, the verdict spreads faster than any courtroom ever could. And undoing that's almost impossible. There's something powerful about a narrative that feels it doesn't need proof. It just needs. When documents drop, names trend, and clips start circulating, the internet does what it always. It fills in. Screenshots become evidence. Silence becomes distance and suddenly, suspicion isn't just suspicion. It becomes accepted reality in the court of public opinion. But here's the uncomfortable. Online belief doesn't equal legal proof. A name appearing somewhere doesn't automatically mean wrongdoing. A conspiracy going viral doesn't automatically make it fact. Yet once millions of people repeat the same claim, it starts to feel undeniable. That's how reputations shift overnight. This doesn't mean powerful people shouldn't be invested. They should. Accountability matters. Transparency matters. Victims deserve. But there's a difference between asking hard questions and declaring final verdicts before the facts are fully established. And that's where we are right now. We're watching the collision between real investigations and viral storytelling, between documented evidence and internet imagination, between due process and digital outrage. So maybe the real takeaway isn't about one celebrity or one set of files. Maybe it's about how quickly we turn uncertainty into certainty. Because once suspicion becomes reality online, reversing it is almost impossible, even if the truth ends up being something very